Hello. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. This is really great. So you just heard a lot about Sophia. I've got a little bit more to tell you about her. She's, built her business from scratch, starting with a tiny, tiny eBay store, and now she's got a business that, as of 2011, had a revenue of $24 million. As of a more recent figure, it was $100 million. Sophia, what was the figure last year?
I try not to talk about that, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, we can imagine it's more than 100 million.
You can imagine.
So before we begin, we should also note she's an author now. You guys have you just saw the cover of the book, I believe. You have some to give away.
Oh, God. Yes, so anyone who's in this room, if you tweet or Instagram a picture of this event and #girlboss, we're giving away 25 of the books. It's out in May, but you'll get it when it's out, so yes.
Good, good. So this is also the first time Sophia is publicly talking about the book, which thank you for that. And you run one of the fastest growing businesses in fashion. You have a 500,000 square foot fulfillment center in Kentucky. You have a gorgeous new office in LA, and you employ 300 people. But we wanted to show a little bit about where this got started and back up. So we have a slide.
Yeah, so.
Oops. There we go.
Yeah. So it started with something that looks like that, which fortunately I've outgrown. But I never expected to end up the CEO of what's now a corporation. It was like my full intent as a teenager to smash capitalism and eat dumpstered food, as you can see in this picture. And it's been one hell of a ride.
Yes. Yeah.
Since then, yeah.
So what were you like as a teenager? What was growing up like?
I was like, really, that has to stay there this long. I was pretty angsty and frequented anarchist book fairs. And didn't really get along with high school, ended up homeschooling for a couple years, moved out before I graduated and just got like my GED, or no, not my GED, my diploma in the mail.
Yeah.
Yes, I did graduate.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a particularly happy kid in the suburb that I grew up in,
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah, but then you got out, but you didn't necessarily go to college.
No, I mean, yeah, so I had 1,000 different jobs.
Yeah.
It's really exciting to see Subway at South by Southwest and to get a picture there because that was my first job, was as a sandwich artist. Yeah, and I really actually enjoyed that job.
Yeah, what did you like about it?
I liked, well, as I state in Girl Boss, I got OCD on the BLT, so I just liked building a sandwich kind of perfectly as fast as possible and wrapping it up, whatever. Yeah, I jumped around. I moved from, Sacramento to Olympia, Washington to Seattle to San Francisco to Oakland to Portland and back to San Francisco before I started Nasty Gal at 22. So I had done a lot and had a lot of stupid jobs and learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
At that point, I had taken community college classes at San Francisco Community College, and my parents were like, we'll help you a little bit if you're enrolled in school full time. So I enrolled full time in photography classes at community college, and didn't end up getting like an AA or anything, but learned a lot about photography and honed my eye, which eventually really helped me with Nasty Gal when I started it.
Yeah, that's great. There's a chapter in your book called "Shoplifting and Hitchhiking Saved My Life." Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, among the many stupid things I did before I started Nasty Gal, I wanted to explore the world and be free, and I've learned that the life I have now is much more free than the one that I tried to put myself in as a teenager. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, rode in big rigs from Sacramento to Seattle and did put myself in places that I guess at a young age allowed me to learn a lot about the world and experience things that most people don't. And I don't relate at all to that person anymore. I mean, I guess my first entrepreneurial venture was selling stolen books on Amazon as a reseller, which I'm not entirely proud of, but I wasn't good at working for other people, and I tried every route, not every route, but many routes to avoid doing that. None of them worked.
Yeah.
So I ended up realizing that working really hard and being honest and paying your taxes and paying your bills and all of the above actually work.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm glad.
So what year was the Amazon book theft sales operation?
it was probably 2002.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to when you're living in San Francisco, in a what you said was like tiny.
And my step aunt's backyard pool house.
Yeah, yeah.
With no kitchen. Yeah. So, that wasn't a huge upgrade, but I started the business actually, at my boyfriend's house for a second, and then at my mom's house because I was recovering from a hernia surgery, and I can't believe I lived with my mom after the age of 17 for any length of time, but I did for about a month. And after that, lived in Pleasant Hill, which is out by Walnut Creek, which is really far from where all of my friends were in San Francisco, at 22 years old. So that was like 2006, which is not that much a length of time to be founding a business, which I didn't realize I was.
Right, right.
From the point where I was doing really stupid stuff like selling stolen books. I'm sure Amazon is really going to want to promote Girl Boss after learning this.
Any press is good press, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you started this eBay store. You had a different job at the time, swiping IDs.
Yeah. So that was the last job I had.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I got that job because I didn't have health insurance and needed to fix my hernia. So that job lasted the 90 days that it takes to get health insurance.
Amazing.
It was at the Academy of Art University in San Francisco on New Montgomery Street. I just sat in the lobby and checked student IDs for $12 an hour.
Yeah.
That was my last job.
So you were like the world's scrawniest security guard?
Yeah, it was like a cheaper version of like a security guard,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
I was called a campus safety host, and they wanted, yeah. And I had plenty of time to fiddle around on the internet, and MySpace was the thing at the time. Was getting a bunch of friend requests from eBay sellers who were promoting their businesses via MySpace.
Yeah.
Just kind of sitting in this lobby thinking hey, I can do that. I wore entirely vintage at the time, knew where to find it cheaper than they were selling it for, and decided to just take a stab at it after I had the hernia fixed.
Yeah. So you took a page from their playbook and used MySpace at the beginning to find followers as well. Is that correct?
I did. Sorry, scarf. So what people pay for on Facebook today, I figured out how to get for free, and I didn't invent it, but I got it on MySpace, where I would, downloaded a friend-adding robot and plugged in magazines that I thought the girls who might be interested in the vintage I was selling would be, friends with on MySpace, and if they were in LA or New York or Sydney, Australia, and between the ages of such and such, I would push add friends, and I would just sit there adding CAPTCHA codes. You know what those are?
Yeah.
Those just for hours at a time, and amassed I think something like 60,000 MySpace friends.
Yeah.
And would post a bulletin every week when auctions went live, and respond to comments on photos, and learn actually what they liked and didn't like from just listening on Facebook, which just seemed it was the only way I could learn and get better. And we still do that today with social media. But I feel like we might have been one of the first. We might have been one of the first to. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of incredible to me that you were gaming social media before we were all even using the phrase social media regularly.
Yeah, I grew up on the internet, and it just seemed like the natural thing to do.
Yeah.
And it was easy for me from in my bathrobe to provide really great customer service, which as an introvert, which I talk about a little bit in the book, is very different to do when you're standing in a retail store, and God knows who's going to walk in with their weird energy. And I was able to perfect this business without standing in a retail store, which I had done many times before and I wasn't very good at.
Yeah.
I will be really good at it when we open our own stores.
Or you can hire people who are really good at it. So who is the Nasty Gal customer? You were so good from day one at sort of listening to that person, hearing what they wanted, responding to them on social media, but who is that, and has that changed over time?
I really don't think it's changed that much. We've gained a lot more customers, so I would say it's broader of a customer base than when I started, but the ultimate Nasty Gal customer is probably in her 20s, largely in LA and New York, obsessed with fashion or just like loves getting dressed, but fashion is just only one part of her life. So she's not one-dimensional. She's into travel and food and interior design and music and a whole lot of other things that make her a really like well-rounded person. Nasty Gal, yes, we sell sexy clothing, but there's a spirit that we do that with that is very different than someone like a BB or Guess is doing, I think, in that like you're wearing makeup, you're wearing a dress, but it's like for you, it's not to get like catcalled, It's a very different kind of spirit, and we might, sell dresses that resemble the same dresses that someone like a BB even sells, but the whole psychology behind how we present it is entirely different.
Yeah, that's really great. I wanted to ask about moving on from eBay, kind of what was the next step? You acquired your own URL, but it wasn't nastygal.com right away, it was Shop Nasty Gal?
Well, it was first nastygalvintage.com,
okay.
And then it was shopnastygal.com. And after enough Facebook posts where girls were saying, hey, I went to show my grandpa a dress and accidentally typed in nastygal.com. Thanks for like the memory.
Do you guys know what nastygal.com used to be?
We can take a guess. So ended up, buying it for like $8,000, which seems like a deal now. It seemed really expensive then. And never got that complaint again.
Yeah, that's great. So everyone tells this story as if you were just checking IDs one day and the next day you had a $100 million business, but there's a lot of work that goes into that few years of building the company. Did you make a conscious decision at any point, like this is going to be a big deal, this is going to be a 300-person company? Or were you just looking at day-by-day next steps?
It's really been day by day, week by week. A lot of things that I expected to, hiring the team that I have today, I expected to take 6 months. It took over a year. There's some things that to get it right, you can't control everything unless you want to hire people who maybe aren't perfect for the job or, put forward product that you're not completely confident about. But going from 0 to 300 employees, I feel like I've been so in it. If I had been less involved in some ways, if I wasn't the CEO, or if I had a bunch of co-founders, or if, I don't know. I think I would have been. It might be a little bit more alarming, but I've been there every day as we've done that. And sometimes I, have to gut check myself and be like, whoa, these people want to hear me talk. How did that happen? It's been like very iterative along the way.
Yeah, I heard you say in another interview that if 22-year-old Sophia would have known that today this is where you would be, you may not have done it.
From the outside, from the outside, I don't think, hey, it wasn't like I want to be a CEO, so I'm going to start selling vintage clothing on eBay.
Yeah.
It wasn't a choice. It wasn't like, I want to have a staff of 300 people. I was like terrified of helping people in a retail store, and they leave at the end of a sale. I have 300 people who come back every day, and I love it, but, at 22 years old, at that point in my life, that would have been the most terrifying thing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, how I've kind of arrived as the company has grown and been able to manage all of the insane changes along the way.
Yeah.
It's fun to surprise yourself,
Yeah. I mean, you also attained this fast growth that we write about in Inc. all of the time, and most of the companies, or at least a lot of them, that are able to attain this kind of hockey stick curve, this really amazing increases in revenue over the year by year. They're tech companies, they're apps or websites, and they're in Silicon Valley, they're in San Francisco. But back in 2006, did you have an awareness of that ecosystem? Were you trying to emulate it at all?
No. It was really foreign to me. I didn't, I had lived in San Francisco. I didn't realize what everyone in the Bay Area did for a living. My friends and I were just like working retail jobs. It was like a very kind of different world to exist in than people with like careers. I didn't really even realize that was how it worked. I've only understood that as a result of employing people who can manage their careers, and I know a lot about it now. But yeah, I mean, and San Francisco just keeps getting more and more expensive, and I now know, what's going on there, and it's a very different experience to go back there, and there's like a whole world of people that I know and that I can see, and my investors there, but I don't think most of those people would have given me the time of day when I lived there before,
all
which
those
is
hoodies.
to no one's, I mean, I was like selling shoes and like working in a lobby, right?
Yeah. But eventually you did sort of take a page from Silicon Valley's playbook. I mean, you owned 100% of the business until 2 years ago. But when did you start thinking, okay, maybe these guys have it right. Maybe venture capital is the way to go. Maybe I'll at least engage in those conversations.
Yeah, it was something I had to explore at a certain point, and the first time I did, it was terrifying. It was the first time I'd been in a boardroom, and it was in a venture capitalist's office, and it was what's her name? It was at Excel, and I had my COO, who was very new at the company. It was the first COO I had ever hired. We had maybe like 20 people or something. We were in Emeryville at that point. And I had gotten calls, and I was like, oh, well, let's see what this is about. And it was like, the way they would look at our business was so different from the way I was looking at my business.
How were they looking at it?
I mean, we're still figuring out how to be like a data-driven company.
Sure.
We've learned a lot over the course of the last couple years, but it was really about me like looking at something and saying, I know how that's going to look on a girl. I know what attitude she needs to have. I know what price it can sell at. It was a lot more like kind of hand to mouth than looking at like all of the data and making decisions based on that. I don't even think we had like a proper open to buy at that point. We were like going out and saying like, we spent $2,000 last week on merchandise, let's spend $5,000 and have some left over. It was literally like you give a child like a credit card or something. It was a very responsible child. But yeah, so that was like a bewildering experience, and then I waited like a good year and a half after that to consider it again. And I'd been given the advice, wait as long as possible, you can get a higher valuation. And we were profitable, cash flow positive when I decided to do a round. But it was something I had to explore, and just learned a lot through the conversations. Ultimately, like every decision I've made, chose the person that I wanted to be in the room with like all the time. And I found Danny Reimer of Index Ventures, who's just an awesome person with great taste and everything.
Yeah.
So it's like fun to eat with him, and fun to get travel tips from him. He's great. And that's the same way I've hired people along the way. It's just, I have had the luxury of being able to choose people that I like rather than people that I need. And I think that's really made our culture something very special.
Yeah. So what did he do right that the other VCs were doing wrong?
I think you can learn a lot about people by the questions that they ask. I had one venture capitalist ask my COO, who was my former COO by this time, if I had a spending problem, which is like, I built a $28 million business out of like a few $100 and no debt. Like no one would have given me a credit card. Like how in the world could I possibly have a spending problem? So, Danny he got it day one. He was like, you have a community. He's on the board of Etsy. Yeah. Like he was an early investor in ASOS and Net-a-Porter. He wasn't into Nasty Gal because it was like the trendy hot thing of the moment, which fashion and online apparel still continues to be, I think, a really interesting thing for venture capitalists. Yeah. I think been a little bit tenuous more recently. But you know, Danny's he's a contrarian, and I think I really enjoyed that about him.
Yeah, that's great. Speaking of money and your relationship to it, I mean, former anarchist, now obviously you sort of, ever since starting the business, you know, you were making money on every single transaction. You could buy an $8 Chanel coat at a Salvation Army and sell it for what, like $1,000? It's kind of the definition of capitalism. So
Yeah,
what is your relationship with money now, though? You've been sort of frugal through the years.
Yeah, I mean, I continue to be frugal, but at the same time, you know, it's, you know, as with everything from hiring to eating to decorating your house to traveling, you know, sometimes it's really not worth spending the extra money on like a nicer hotel room or business class or whatever. I mean, I'm staying in my attorney's basement right now with my boyfriend and my poodle because I like refuse to pay rent for the next few weeks because like I have been since I bought a house that's being remodeled for the last 2 years. So then I've never lived in it. So I'm just like these last 3 weeks like no way. And yeah.
And there's an amazing story about some Herman Miller chairs.
Oh yeah. So I took my first vacation since starting the business in I think like maybe early 2010. I went to Hawaii by myself. I went to the North Shore of Oahu and spent 7 days there, rented a bike, just cruised around and watched people surf. And this was the time when, you know, we were arranging the move to LA. I had already moved to LA and set things up there, and the team back in Emeryville was figuring out, okay, what chairs do we buy? What desks do we buy? How's that gonna work? And I had a Herman Miller Aeron chair, which I bought used on Craigslist and like carted it back to my house, you know, from someone's garage for like whatever, half the price that one of those is. And it was like this big deal that I had this chair. And I came back and they had dropped like $12,000 on like Herman Miller Aeron chairs for like everyone, including interns.
Wow.
And I was just like, no way, you know, and we couldn't return them. So they sat in like a storage room until we sold every single one of them on Craigslist at a loss, but it was kind of like the principle for me. No way are we ready to sit in Herman Miller Aeron chairs. We do all sit in Herman Miller chairs now, but they're the cheaper ones. They're the $400 ones, and they're actually way cooler looking. But it's also a very different time.
Yeah. Are there any other instances of that you've displayed, like radical frugality in the office or
I think our snacks could really improve. I don't know.
What's that?
I think our snacks could really improve.
Okay.
Frugality in the office. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm doing it all the time. You know, it's like I don't know, I don't want to get into details. There's people who come and just water plants for the business, and I'm like, we can water our own plants, you know? So, I mean, that's kind of happening all the time, but it's stuff that no one's really interested in hearing about, I think.
So I guess I'm curious, it's no small task to, oh yeah, that's your office. It's no small task to manage 300 people, and obviously it's been gradual growth for the company. But how did you learn to be a manager? I mean, do you have mentors, or did you read business books, or what was your strategy over the last few years?
I own a lot of business books, and I kind of just turn them over and read the back, and then like flip through them, and I feel like I kind of like absorb what they have to offer. I don't finish them, but I have learned a lot, I think, from doing that. You can do that. I think it really works.
I sleep with them under my pillow.
Yeah, exactly. I've watched, I mean, I learned how to talk to venture capitalists by buying a book called like How to Be Smarter Than Your VC, and actually learned a lot from it. Like I have no shame in things like that. Or I would sit and watch, you know, a panel of venture capitalists talk about like the worst things in entrepreneurs that they just like can't stand on YouTube. It's like, you know, Stanford Business School, whatever, they film these things. You can learn a lot for free. I learned a lot there. And I've learned a lot from the examples of the amazing team that I've hired. I've had the luxury of managing people who don't really need to be managed for the most part, and watching, you know, them bust out with their experience on, you know, with managing their teams. I can also kind of absorb that, I guess.
Yeah. And as far as managing, you talk a lot about it in your book about being an introvert, and I really liked that chapter and sort of identified with it. But I mean, being surrounded by 300 people every day, how do you do that, and how have you built the company so that it's possible for you?
I just act really normal, I think. I don't like walk around the office and like wave or anything. I mean, I would like to think I'm pretty approachable. It's scary when we put everyone in a room because it really kind of quantifies like how big this thing is. But I don't know. It's come as iteratively, I guess, as everything else. I've just become comfortable with it.
You said something funny last night when we were talking over drinks about this conversation. You said, as far as being an introvert, you said, ask me, if I ever feel like an impostor.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's something that I think people don't really talk about when they find some level of success. Is like, holy shit, I belong here, and holy shit, these people are looking to me for leadership, which I've known all along, but you have those moments. And I mean, I think it keeps anyone grounded to feel like they don't belong somewhere, and I've put myself in so many places where I don't belong that I think it's really ingrained in me in probably a really healthy way.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's it.
Can you explain about what you mean by putting yourself in situations that you feel like you don't belong in, and sort of what it does for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of talked about this last night, which, we're both like, oh my God, we're gonna talk in front of a lot of people, I hope it's not empty. Julian Assange is talking at the same time, what the fuck?
Thank you all for not going to see Julian Assange.
But, okay, where was I?
Putting yourself in situations that aren't necessarily comfortable.
I mean, I think it's good to cross-train yourself. I mean, I feel like where I've found myself has created, every opportunity for me to learn the things that I would have learned if I wasn't an only child, if I had finished high school, if I had finished college, if I had held a job for any length of time. I weaseled out of a lot of stuff. And there's no way I can weasel out of this, nor do I want to. But you just keep arriving to these new circumstances, and it's amazing how cross-trained you can become as a person in ways socially, professionally, personally, that all these things kind of benefit each other, and your life just gets so much better if you show up and are just ready for it.
Yeah, that's great. So we're all familiar with Nasty Gal, the website. But I would love, and I think everyone here might love a little bit of an eye into the company, what it's like day to day. What are you like as a manager?
I'm in a lot of meetings, and I think I'm going to try to figure out a way not to be in a lot of meetings. I'm very touch and go. I hire people to trust them, and I stay involved along the way, and I try not to be a micromanager. Where I have to be a micromanager, I will be, because we have a brand. We have a very specific brand. And as new people join the company, it's always kind of a learning process of what's right and what's wrong. And the last thing I want to do is freak our customer out by putting forward things that are really wrong. And we're always aiming to get it kind of laser sharp, what Nasty Gal is week in, week out. And but I would say I don't know, I guess that's the kind of manager I am.
Yeah, what would you say your superpower is as a boss? What are you specifically really good at?
I'm really good at hiring good people. I'm really good at interviewing people and finding out if they're in it for the right reasons. If they want to work for a female-led company that's venture-backed, it's just kind of no, the opportunity here is way cooler than that, and that's cool, but that's not why you should be joining the company. So I choose people that are pretty self-aware, pretty humble, but also willing to kind of push their ideas forward, who can be collaborative. We have a no assholes policy, and I've fired someone on the spot for being an asshole once. But it's for real. We don't have any assholes. It's an office full of girls, and no one is bitchy. There's no bitchiness, because if I'm, I mean, the way I feel about it, and this is just a weird, this is like back from day one when I hired my first people, like if you're gonna like be bitchier than me, and I'm not bitchy, but the one person who has permission is me, and I'm not. So no one can do that on all of our time. It's just not okay. So, and everyone who I hire seems to like each other from what I understand.
Good. So I'm dying to know, what did this guy or gal do to get fired on the spot?
I think I would have to consult my chief people and culture officer before talking about that.
That bad?
No, I just don't know. Yeah, they dismissed a group of people within the company in a way that was not fun, like cool or collaborative.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I wanted to go back to what you were saying earlier about how you kind of want to get it right every time with stuff you put on the website, and knowing who your audience is and speaking to them. Have there been a couple of examples of times where you've kind of veered astray of that line that you're trying to find, that perfect space? Like, what's gone wrong along the way, and what have you learned from it?
Nothing massive has ever really gone wrong. It's little things, like, we just launched a prom, as you see, collection on the home page, and I think the shoot looks amazing. I think most of the merchandise looks great, but there's a couple things that might not be like, our customer. And we're designing things now, so it's like there's a lot more people involved in making a product.
Yeah.
We don't design everything that we sell on the website, but we did design the prom capsule. And I don't even know if our customer is like in high school or going to prom, so that's a whole nother conversation. I think the shoot looks great, and everyone wears dresses, but there's just conversations like that. And I just hired a new president and chief product officer who was at Lululemon for the last 5.5 years. She's amazing. She started when they were like a $200 million business and was there all the way through whole, like, whatever, multi-billion-dollar revenue. She's amazing. And those kinds of conversations, philosophies around, do we want to talk about prom? There's been a lot of things that we've kind of done because we've done them before, or someone brings it up and then it just kind of happens. The big kind of philosophizing about, like, who are we and what do we do and not do, we need to do. It's great that it kind of runs through the veins of the company in a really natural way.
Yeah.
But as you get bigger and there's more people, you really have to talk about those things.
Right.
Or else people just set off on like a path, and then you have to check in like 6 months later and be like, wait, why are we doing this? It totally happens, and it's no one's fault.
Yeah. And you're making a couple of really big moves in the next maybe year. You've already launched your own brand of shoes. I understand you're doing denim and clothing and lingerie as well.
Yeah. We're doing swim as well, and then we're launching a home category this year, which I'm really excited about. And we're also looking at retail spaces starting in LA. And I'm really excited about bringing our community into the stores, bringing the technology into the stores in a way that being online first, I feel like we can do in a way other people haven't. I don't know if it's going to be day one, doors open, amazing, the perfect experience, but most retailers are kind of bogged down with legacy systems that it'll take them like 5 years to replace. So I kind of want to have fun with, disrupting. Yeah,
interesting. So kind of to look at it from a blue sky way, what might that entail when you're thinking really big about how a Nasty Gal retail store could look?
Really pretty, full of beautiful clothes. I don't want to give too much away in terms of my ideas.
Yeah.
I want it to be like a luxury experience for everyone. I've shopped in enough stores where the store associates just don't care. They won't look at you. They don't smile. They just kind of like grumble and open a door for you. And when you need something, you can't. They're like not in the dressing room. And then you have to like put your clothes back on, and maybe you walk out in your socks to find something. It's just the experience is not that great, and there's a lot of things that I want to fix about it.
Yeah.
How I'm doing that quite yet, I'm still working.
I'm just imagining like robots and touch screens and holograms?
It's still going to be very human.
Okay.
That's the thing. That's the thing about Nasty Gal. Like it's a business. It's a brand on the internet. A very specific brand. We're not just a retailer. Yes, we retail. We're a brand that was born on the internet that is very human. And I don't know if anyone else has done it that way. So everything that we do has to work within that framework.
Right.
So yeah, technology will be involved, but it's also going to be like a very personable experience. It's not going to be like push a button and your clothes fall down a chute into your dressing room. It won't be like that.
Yeah. Let's talk about that human experience and bringing the personality to the brand. One of the ways that you've done that is through social media. That is an ink cover. Sidetracked here, where Sophia was obviously on the cover of Ink. She was in our 30 Under 30 as well as on our Ink 500. But what I really wanted to show you was her Instagram, or Nasty Gal's Instagram. They have over 1 million followers, and it's just a really outstanding kind of piece of brand work. How many people does it take to manage your social media, and what's the general overarching strategy for it?
There's no overarching strategy. I would say it's my friend Isabella, who started in customer care, who has found herself in social media and just loves it and can take really awesome pictures, actually. I mean, we're a visual brand. We've always been visual. It's what we've been good at. The office is beautiful. The clothes we sell are colorful and sculptural. So it makes it easy to find interesting things to kind of talk about and shoot. At least for Instagram. Not everything is as visual, but it's as natural as me sitting behind a computer, responding to customers.
Yeah.
There is no overarching strategy other than talk to our customer like the human that she is, show her things and talk about things that are funny or cool or in line with what we're doing that we think are cool or funny.
Yeah.
And just like continue to like delight her, I guess.
Yeah, that delight doesn't come so easily for other brands, though. I mean, what do you think people are doing, I guess brands in specific, are doing wrong on social media?
Well, I think they started the wrong way. I think it's hard to adopt the kind of conversation that we have and the relationship with our customers that we have after you've been a department store for like 100 years or something. It's just challenging, and I think that's kind of step one, is just be born on the internet and understand the language of social media and talk back to your customers, and it's a very different relationship.
Yeah. And you guys are using Snapchat now as well?
We are. Yeah, we're supposed to like snap from this event or something, snap from the stage.
And then do people snap back at you?
Yeah.
I mean,
yes, it's amazing. I basically texted with customers, like personally, like it was on my phone. They had to like wrestle me to the ground to like get the password and get it off my phone, so because I wasn't updating it enough. And until they released this new stories feature, and I didn't even know it was there. I'm kind of like I don't know, behind the times or something. I was like pushing, send to like 1,000 people, like from bed in the morning. I was just like, good morning. But like girls they were like, oh my God, Nasty Gal, woohoo. Or they'd like screenshot it and Instagram it. I don't know, it's just, I can't like G-chat with our customers. I can't like text with them, but I'm like laying in bed and someone's like, hey, I'm working right now. It's amazing.
Yeah, so what's next for social media? I mean, what are the next frontiers for you guys?
What? God, sorry.
Or is that it? Is Snapchat the final frontier for now?
The final frontier, I think, is taking a conversation that we've built on social media onto our own turf.
Yeah.
So whether it's in the stores, and stores aren't social media, but I kind of look at it all as the same conversation. Engaging our customer in the physical space, or creating a platform on our website where they can talk back to us. I mean, reviews are like the first element of that conversation that need to happen, and we're working on it. It's coming. It's a big priority, but that's just like, we should have done that like a few years ago. And beyond that, if we create content or other things, like what can the customer or user do to engage on our turf?
Yeah.
Is kind of what I want to figure out.
Yeah, so bringing that traffic from Instagram and Facebook back to you.
Or just sharing it, you know? It's like, I don't think we'll ever leave any of the social platforms. I think it's just a place where we can control the conversation in a way that's actually tailored for our community.
Yeah. That's great. So as far as the future goes, I saw that in a conversation with the New York Times, you sort of hedged a question about your conversations with Urban Outfitters. I mean, are you looking potentially to sell the business someday? Are you looking to IPO? Like, what's your exit strategy?
I don't have an exit strategy. I think that's a scary thing to do. I have a will, which is weird in your 20s. So weird. But it's like everything, I take opportunities as they come. I know the value of the business that I've built, and I'm going to make sure that at every step of the way I'm maximizing that. But there's no like time horizon or specific anything that I really have in mind.
Yeah. Are you in conversations with anyone about an acquisition?
No.
Good. We have a couple of questions from Twitter, and I think in a few minutes we'll take some audience questions as well. So if anyone wants to get up and get to a microphone, I believe it's right over here. You can feel free to do so. So the first question from Twitter is from Nicole Newton. She's a fashion blogger from Dallas, and she asks, "What is the best advice you can give for budding entrepreneurs?"
I think the best advice for budding entrepreneurs, or anyone for that matter, is to just know your strengths and know what you're not good at, because we're not all good at everything. And surrounding yourself with people, whether it's your relationship or the team that you're on, or the team that you hire, or the company that you build, you want to complement. You want to fill your holes. You want to Yeah. I think everyone understands what I mean by that.
So when we were talking about hiring and that being your superpower, I kind of forgot to ask you, what kind of questions do you ask so that you can figure out, like, who is a person I can tolerate being around, who's a person I love being around, who's someone who's going to do a good job? Like, do you have those go-to questions in a job interview?
Like, do I ask, like I'm feeling that out?
Yeah.
Asking, yeah. I mean, people who answer the big question for me is, the strength and weakness question.
Yeah.
Because if people say their strength is that they're like early to everything, or no, their weakness is that they're early to everything, or something like that.
Right.
It's just like,
if they don't admit vulnerability
yeah,
of any
it's just kind
sort.
of like, is that what it's going to be like to work with you? Like, if something doesn't happen, can we not have like an honest conversation about it? Like, that's like really scary, and I don't want to deal with that. So, yeah, there's that one. Why do you want to work for Nasty Gal is another fun one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Another question from Jamie Rochelle, who is a public relations specialist from Houston. Were there ever any moments you had doubts about the success of your business, and how did you overcome them?
So I have doubts every day about the success of my business, and I have to overcome them every day so I can sleep at night, and I do. But there's no like end point. There's no kind of like, oh, I'm successful because I got venture capital. I'm successful because we have a $100 million business. It's like, when you're running a business, you have to imagine that like everything's on fire all the time, I think, to make sure that like everyone is doing what they can to do it right, Yeah. I mean, if I make too many assumptions, so much shit could just, happen without my knowledge.
Yeah.
So I would say it's, every day you should be kind of scared.
How do you, does that, is it the stuff around you that just naturally makes you feel like, let's light this on fire, like this is, or there's a fire lit under me, let's do this? Or do you have to kind of create that feeling of stimulation?
I think I'm a naturally very critical person and self-critical person, and I've learned how to temper that and not, sit in meetings like scowling all the time. And that's not how I feel, but it kind of comes naturally to me. I had like my dad was kind of like, mean sometimes, so I think it kind of like helps to kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm self-aware and I hold everyone accountable to being the same.
Yeah. I'm curious, what were your parents like? You said in the book that you came from a long line of hustlers, I believe.
Yeah, so, both of my parents worked entirely on commission my whole life. So my dad's line was always like, I'm only as good as my next month, right? And cash is king, right?
Yeah.
So, my dad's dad owned a motel, and my mom's dad owned a piano store. So, and that's more like kind of immigrant entrepreneurialism. But I feel like I have that kind of in my blood in a way, and by the nature of technology and eBay giving me a platform to figure out how to, sell things online for the first time, and social media, I was able to kind of cobble together the opportunity that exists out there for so many people today in ways that it didn't in the past.
Yeah.
And also with the spirit that I feel like comes from, having like a Greek, Italian, Portuguese, like insane family. Yeah.
The hustler spirit, I love it. All right, we do have someone with a question out there.
Hi, my question is, was there ever a time that you were very discouraged and you thought, maybe this isn't going to work out, or maybe I'll try a different path, and how did you overcome the discouragement that you felt?
Usually when I feel like I need to resolve something, I don't rest and I don't stop talking about it, and I ping it off as many people as I possibly can to get as much advice as I possibly can, and then just kind of like let settle what actually can make me feel better about it. I've never considered going a different route than Nasty Gal, because this is by far like the best opportunity I will probably ever have. But for me, I want to get to resolutions very quickly, and it can be like even to the point of like being annoying for other people. But I'm not comfortable with uncertainty, and there's uncertainty all the time. I'm comfortable with that kind of uncertainty, but when it's like, oh my God, is the company falling apart because this person quit? It's like, okay, well, what's the solution? And I just kind of have to make myself feel better about it. You have to be able to kind of, pat yourself on the back until you stop crying.
I'm Sam, and I'm a web designer for PETA. So I like that you said the Nasty Gal brand isn't just fashion, like it's a part of another. So anyway, sorry. I once read in an article that obviously you have a great eye for fashion, but that you can look at your site and say, like, hey, this dress isn't selling, let's put it on this model instead, and then it sells out. How is that through data, or do you just have that eye naturally?
It's through data now. I mean, even I could look in in the e-commerce platform and be like, oh shit, we bought 30 and we only sold 1. So we reshoot things. We've reshot things for like a long time. Right now, it's sellability, and it's and sometimes it's the model, but sometimes we just don't get it right, and sometimes we reshoot it, but other times it's just kind of like, let's usher this thing out as fast as possible because no one really cares about it. And sometimes there's no like low price that someone will pay for something that's not good. I mean, that's just like part of kind of retail, I think, and it sucks. But we have a lot of stuff on the website, so it happens. Yeah.
Dave Price from Launch Interactive. I noticed you have a great blog that's almost really a magazine online. To what degree and in what ways does the production of content actually drive sales for you?
Right now, I don't think it drives a lot of sales for us. The content that you see on the homepage and the lookbooks and that kind of stuff that lives outside of the blog is really important because it helps us tell our story, and we've always been really good at doing that through photography. The blog is this, it's just a bolted on thing. You click blog and it opens a new tab. And, people are looking at it, and I love what we're doing. Over the course of the next year, I want to figure out how to bring that content onto the website and have it live in many different places. Because I think the concept of like a blog, at least for someone like us, is a little bit too far removed. I would like all the work that we're doing to be presented in a way that's a little more holistic.
So are you thinking of integrating it more? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Hi.
Hi, I'm Jess. I'm a digital marketer and work on fashion brands for a really long time. And I really admire the way that you guys have sort of paved the way for a new sort of fashion brand that is digitally born.
Thank you.
I was wondering, so many fashion brands look to other fashion brands to get inspired or benchmark against. Are there any brands, whether they're endemic to fashion or not, that you think are doing it really well from a digital perspective?
I didn't hear what you said right before. Are there any brands doing it well from a digital perspective? You said there are a lot that are...
Whether they're fashion brands or
Yeah.
they're not. I mean, you can get inspired from anybody.
I think Vice is doing a good job with ID magazine online. I think it looks really good. What else? I don't know. I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
No, that's all right.
You gave two good examples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hey, how are you? My name is Tim. I have a digital agency called Big Fish that works with women's organizations and healthcare. And I was wondering what you think a non-consumer brand who wants to connect with those women who are making health choices or making choices about their personal and professional development might be able to learn from your experience.
So how to reach them is what you're asking, or?
The thing that they might be able to do that would best allow them to demonstrate authenticity maybe, or connect, that there is a genuine desire to connect.
And this is you as a platform, not women, you're asking?
Trying to, no, the healthcare organizations, for example, if you were a OB-GYN,
Yeah.
and you want to have connections with those people who are consuming your services, what could they take from your brand?
I think if an OB/GYN is the example, I think I personally, like, anything that talks to women about women's health is generally, and I'll use the word tampon-y, that where it's like everyone's like happy and they're like jumping on a bed and like I don't think anyone relates to that.
Right.
And I think the way it's presented is like really creepy. I think it's like maybe men doing it, I'm not sure. But you can talk to women about stuff in a way that's like really comfortable and normal and like candid and get a much better response than I think the way we're being talked to right now.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Like a human. Talk to women like they're people.
Yeah, like you're educated.
Yeah.
Like.
Great. Hi there.
Hi, my name is Megan Hamilton. I work in the app space in Silicon Valley. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your mobile sales as well as your mobile app and how that's going for you.
Yeah, so we have developed both of our mobile apps in-house, iPad and iPhone. We recently launched the iPad, and I think they're beautiful for like a out of the gate, first app. Our team did an amazing job, and we did them entirely in-house, which I'm also really proud of. We haven't done a very good job marketing them. We just shot a video. That's really cool. That we're gonna use to help promote it, and it's just fun to watch. But I spend most of my time on my phone, and I think our customers do as well. And increasingly, especially with customers who are who have shopped with us before, they're already comfortable probably checking out on their phone. There's a lot of work for us to do to improve that, but it's something that I'm really committed to, and I really want everything that we build on the desktop platform to also live on the mobile platform, whether it's mobile web or the app. which I don't think everyone does. They really simplify it and make it just for shopping, and I don't really agree with that.
So what percentage of your sales right now come from mobile?
I don't know. I should know.
It's all right.
Yeah. An increasing amount.
Yeah. And how many developers did it take to build those apps? How many do you have in-house?
I don't. In-house, it's. I don't know. I mean, I would say like our engineering and kind of technology and product teams. There's probably at least 30 people. On the mobile side, it's pretty slim.
Yeah.
It's a small team, and we designed it in-house. But yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
My name is Odette Contreras. I own a small event design company in New York City. And as a woman business owner, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about funding and what that process was like for you to start from a small shop and the hurdles into becoming something larger. Mm-hmm. We're in year 3, so.
Yeah, cool, congratulations.
Thanks.
I think my experience is different than what a lot of people's is, because I had a product to sell day one. I sold it for more than I paid for it. I saved some of that money. The company was profitable as a result of that, and I didn't hire too many people. It depends on the company in terms of if you need funding day one to pay yourself and other employees before you build something. It's really never apples to apples. The best advice I can give is have something as fully baked as you can before you present it to anyone, really understand it and how you're going to talk about it. Look at what's going on out there and how you can compare what you're doing and show that it is different and serves a need that hasn't been met. I guess ultimately kind of, be yourself and really believe in what you're doing.
Is there any advice that you would say would be specific for a woman seeking venture capital?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see myself as a woman in those meetings.
But some of the VCs certainly did. Some of the things they said to you.
They did, and I ignored it, and they didn't invest in my company. So I think to a certain extent, and I've had the privilege of, not working a corporate job. It's different for me in terms of like the men and women in the workplace thing. But I think in a lot of ways, just as much as you can, ignoring your detractors can actually make them like impotent. And that's what I try to do without being, a completely unself-aware like weirdo who doesn't listen to anyone's advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I think we have time for just one more quick question.
Hi, my name is Ralph Simon. I'm in the mobile business. I cater for the multi-screen screenagers. I want to ask you a question about your international impact. The aesthetic of your brand is really creating some stir with the cool hunters internationally. Are you guys going to focus on developing things in the international space?
Yeah, we are. So we hired our director of international, maybe it's been a year now. And something like 25-30% of our business is international and always has been because, from day one on eBay, I just put the stuff in the mail and shipped it to, pretty much any country that was interested in shopping with us. That experience, there's a lot to improve. For example, our customers in the UK, they get slapped with like a crazy, bill when they order something from us. And sometimes it's almost as much as what they ordered. And they just don't understand that. They're like, wait, I paid for this. Why am I spending more money? So bringing transparency to the international kind of, checkout and, shipping experience is really important. But this year we're launching our Australian site. Australia is our #1 international country. So we're launching our Australia kind of specific site sometime in the next few months, which will be really exciting. And from there, we want to accommodate like every country who's supporting us.
That's great.
Yeah.
How long before there's fulfillment centers on every continent?
On every continent, probably never.
Right.
But
You're not going for the South Pole?
no. I mean, I think we would start with return centers,
Yeah.
so people can at least get their money back faster and shop with us again faster. Because I mean, sending something internationally and waiting for a refund is not fun. It's not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Sophia.
Thank you.